Hi, this is Robert O'Deegan, and today we're going to be adjusting a beach photo that I shot in Maui, and it's just going to give you an insight on how I adjust my work here. So this is what we started out with, and this is what we ended up with. So come on along, and let's see how we did it. A lot of times when I go out, I will do an HDR. I don't put it together as an HDR. I'll look at the originally shot. I'll look at the dark and the light of the HDR. Well, this is the dark side of the HDR. We're going to start out with shadows. So I'm going to take my shadows all the way up to 100. I'm going to take my highlights all the way up to 100. Okay? I'm going to take my exposure and light it up just a little bit so I can kind of see everything. I'm going to take my contrast and get it up to 100. Okay? And I'm going to lighten this up just a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my temperature, and I'm going to take my temperature up to around 9,000. Okay? Now what I'm going to do now is to take my whites. Now remember, I could readjust this at any time. So I'm going to take my whites and I'm going to hold down Alt-Option. As I go to the right, it's too much. So I'm going to come over here and back it off to about there to a -47. Now I'm going to take my blacks, still holding down Alt-Option. You know how the screen turned black when we were doing our whites? This is going to turn white. So as I hold down Alt-Option, I'm on my whites, and I'm going to see how I darken it. Well, I'm going to bring it back this way because it's almost a dark photograph anyway. So I'm going to bring it to around 7. And I like that right there. You can see the foreground, the background, everything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vibrance. I'm going to skip clarity. And I'm going to go to vibrance, and I'm going to take my vibrance to around 21. I'm going to take my saturation and bring it up to around 7. Okay? Now I'm going to take my contrast. I'm going to stick with it right there. I'm going to bring this down, which is my exposure. I'm going to bring it down. I'm liking that right there, and I still have a blue sky right here. Okay, so I'm in line with the photograph. I'm not changing the heck out of it. Okay, so now here's what we've got here. I'm going to go to 125 on my exposure. I'm going to go with 100 on my contrast. Down here on vibrance, I'm going to go to 41 now. Now I like that. Look at everything, the way everything's being handled right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my lens correction. Okay? That's just straight over to the right. Okay? It looks like the old-fashioned camera there, and it says lens correction. I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and what's going to happen is the corners get a little vignetting sometimes, so I'm going to come over here and just lighten up my corners. Now, if you take it too far, watch the yellow bottoms and the upper right. See that? I'm going to flash it now so you can see it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and bring it up to around right there, which is +28. Now I'm going to go over to my curves, and I'm going to start there and there. Okay? Now, my curves, what I'm going to do is there's a solid square here and a hollow square. I go up to the hollow square, I hold down Shift. Now I'm able to adjust like so, okay, at the same time. So I'm going to go right about there. Okay, now, sorry, let me go back over to camera raw. And I still like the 9,000. I might bring this up just to, no, I'm going to keep it at 125. I like the 100 on everything else. I like my whites. In fact, let me kind of see. I'm going to change my whites to 43. I'm going to bring my blacks up to 38. And this is without holding down Alt Option. Okay. I like the way everything looks now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and I'll be right back, and I'll bring this same photo right back in. Okay, now we're back. This photo, if you look at it right now, to me looks really good, except I'm going to show you how to even make it better, to bring out more of the photo. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can go and down here, right next to the trash can, is add a layer. So you could drag this down and drop it right in, add a layer, and bam, you've made a copy. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that layer, and I'm going to show you the other way to do it. This to me is really easy. You hit Command J, bam, you've got a copy. So now let's take this copy, and you gotta tap on it twice, and I'm going to name this foreground. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take my foreground here, and I'm going to get my quick selection tool, and I'm going to come over here, and I want the horizon, except I do not want that island in the background. So I'm going to hold down Alt Option, and I go down right down here to the bottom and add a mask. If you look down here, what I selected is already in my mask. Now that I got this separated, okay, I'm now going to go up to my curves, and I'm just going to hit it. And now you look down here, and now you have your curves up here. Now what I'm going to do is I have my hand over here, like so, my mouse. Okay, now you hold down Alt Option, and as you bring that hand down, it changes to a downward arrow, okay? And all you do is click. And when you clicked, it shifted over, okay? So what's going to happen now is I'm only adjusting the foreground. So I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to put another dot right there. Okay? Now, if you see this, it's solid. Okay, the bottom one. The top one is hollow. So I'm going to hold down Shift. Now I can adjust. So now I'm able to see the beach. I don't want to have it too light, but right about there. Okay, and I let go. So now you can see my beach here, where you can see a lot more detail, and you don't want to overdo it because you'll blow it out in 2 seconds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the project. Here's the photograph, and I've already lightened my foreground here. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it again. I'm going to get my quick selection tool, and I'm going to select the rocky area just on this side, right to about there. And I'm going to go over here and just select this area right down here. Now I've got to take and hold down Alt Option. Okay, if you know your quick selection tool, you hold down Alt Option. Whoops, So if you work with this, okay, and I'm looking real good there, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit Command J, and I've separated it again. So what I'm going to do is I want to lighten up this area over here. I want to lighten up this also, but I got to do them one at a time here. So I'm going to take my dodge tool, and I have it. I'm going to try. Okay, I'm at 59, and I'm going to lightly lighten that up a little bit, just a little bit here. Okay, that's just enough. Now I'm going to go back to my background. I'm going to get my quick selection tool, and I'm going to select this area right here. Now it's grabbing a little too much. Okay, now I'm going to hold down Alt Option. I'm going to bring this down in line with what I want to do. Now, and I think I've got that pretty well handled right there. I want to grab this little rock right there. I'm going to hold down Alt Option and kind of get rid of some of this. So I've just got that little rock right there. Now I've got it. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. There's a little deal of sand right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold down Command J. Okay, now I've separated those rocks. Okay, now I'm going to lighten up by grabbing my dodge. Same numbers. And I'm just going to lighten that up again, and lighten that up once more. So there I go. Now I got everything handled right there. I'm going to flatten this. Now what I want to do is I want to lighten up the sandy area and some of the foam in the water here. So I'm going to go down a little bit with this, and I'm going to lighten up this beach. Okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to lighten up some of the foam along there. Okay, and I'm looking around, and I'm liking the way that whole thing is looking. I really like the way everything is looking. I like the, let me see what the crop is going to look like. I'm just going to hit C, and I'm just going to move this. And I'm liking that. Okay, so I'm going to crop it. Okay, now I want to do one more thing. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to hit my curves. Put a dot here because I want to dash more drama in here. I'm now going to hold down Shift. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten this a little bit more in certain areas. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit right in here. I'm going to lighten up this super dark area here. Lighten it up just a little bit here. Okay, now that's our finished product here. And I like that right there. So that is making a dramatic change to your beach photos. The next time you're out shooting, have a lot of fun with your camera. Then come back in and have a lot of fun with Photoshop. If you want to learn more, keep watching my tutorials, and you can subscribe right here. This is Robert O'Diggin. Thanks. Take my vibrance. Okay, I'm going to skip clarity. I'm going to skip clarity. Okay, I'm going to skip clarity.